stripes. So it's a great project to use up some excess scraps of your vinyl that you have. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we'll work with some flowers with felt and your machine. Now I'll be using the Siser Juliet machine, and we'll be working with the Siser software, Leonardo. But if you're joining us and you have a different digital cutter, you'll still be able to use all of the techniques as far as like assembly goes with whatever digital cutter you have and the software that comes with that. So it is cross-compatible with your Silhouette or your Cricut machine. So I kind of start out, let's talk a little bit first about the materials that I picked out for myself, for my second one, since I already had one going here. So I have my machine over here, and let me just close that door for us. So to make the sign, I just grabbed initially a bunch of different colors of vinyl that I had out of my vinyl scrap bin. So my second sign, I thought I wanted to have a little bit more of a cohesive look, but I like the one with all the different colors on it too. So whatever way you decide to go. But my second one, I picked up a bag of beads, and I've already done the stringing on them. But this was a bag of beads from Bead Landing. It was on the bead aisle. And they're like a rubbery type of bead. So I went ahead and strung them on the elastic string, so we can attach those at the end. But that was going to be my color inspiration. So I have my your round disc, whatever size you're working with. Mine happens to measure 9.75 inches. So you want to make sure that you have your ruler and you can measure your round. And then I just used a pattern design. It's very similar design to this one. The Siser, I used what's it called? The Leopard print PSV vinyl, pressure sensitive vinyl. So it doesn't need heat or anything like that. We're just gonna use regular vinyl. And then from my scrap bin and my stack of vinyl, I picked out a bunch of different colors that would sort of coordinate with the ribbons, the beads, and the leopard print. So some of these have been cut before. I have a couple different shades of the different colors in there, so I can throw all those together. Then for the backing of my wood, I'll be using just some felt to create a backing, and you'll need to have some felt colors to coordinate to make your flowers and things like that. So I have a few different colors here for flowers and things to accessorize. I also will be using my heat gun for the felt flowers. So if this is your first time working with felt flowers, you'll need to have your heat gun, or I like to use a glue, an adhesive that dries quickly when I'm making flowers, because you have to roll it and hold it tight. So it's a little bit easier when it glues if your glue dries a little bit quicker. So it makes it less that you have to hold on to it. And then I do have some felt and foam tacky glue, because to adhere the letters onto the sign. Okay, so before we go too much further into the design, software, does anybody have any questions about the materials that I'm using? So make sure we get it and make sure nobody has any questions and gets left behind. Okay, so and feel free, we do in this workshop, we'll be using the Q&A. If you do have questions, that's at the bottom of the screen. So if you just have a question, you type it into the Q&A, and that way Rashmi can see it. If it's a technical question, she can just take care of it for you. If it's related to our project, she'll either read it out to me or I'll see that question. So any questions you have, just feel free to pop those in to me, and we'll get those going. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll go right into our Leonardo software. So the first thing we're going to do is I have my palettes here. Let's see. Is it sharing with you all?
No, I can't see your screen, Kesley.
It says my screen share is loading. Let's see, let me stop share. Get that going. There we go. All right.
I can see it now. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So from here, when you open up your Leonardo software, what you want to do, let's just go back to the home screen there. If you open it up on the home page, you'll just come down to design at the bottom there on the left, and you click on that, and that brings you into basically the view of your mat. So I'll be kind of working in a 12 by 12 size. So the first thing I did was I added the circle onto my screen. So my circle was 9.75 inches, and let me show you how to add a shape onto your mat. So on the bottom here are all of your tools and things you need. So we're just going to go to I think it's the fifth one in from the left. And if you hover over it, you can see the different draw shapes that are available. So I selected the circle, and you can just draw that circle and bring it right into the center of your page. Now there are some keystrokes that will allow you to enlarge that as it's in the center of your page. You can also go down on the left side here where it says the properties, and open that panel up. And at the bottom here, it'll have your width and your height. So you want to go ahead and change your width and height of your circle there. So mine's going to be 9.75 inches, so almost 10 inches. And then if you click on that other option there at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but it says position right underneath your width and height. And then you can actually change the position of your shape so it will line up 1 inch down and 1 inch over. So it comes down an inch and over an inch. So the first cut I did, and if you want to do this cut, go ahead and send your design to your machine. And I just did the circle and I used the current location on the mat. If you don't use your current location where you have it positioned on the mat, it will position it in that bottom left-hand corner. So I kept my position where it was. Now, when I sent this over to my machine, I cut this out of cardstock. And I just did that. I probably lost my template. I did that to create a template. So while you're doing that cut, I'll kind of talk you through why I did that, but I got to find my cutout. Here's my, oh, I threw it in the trash. Sorry. Here it is. Okay, so I went ahead and cut out my circle. One, I wanted to make sure it was the right size, that it was going to fit on the back of my round, which it fits perfectly. So that's the size that I want to use to kind of guide myself on the back piece. Once you've made sure that it fits, if you need to bump it up a little bit or make it a little bit bigger or anything like that, you can do that here. Now, I do notice that I have a little bit of overhang here. So why don't I go ahead and increase the size of my circle, and then I'll cut with you. So let's just do that. Okay, let me share my screen again. So I can go back into my design and change the shape of it. So this time I'll just change it to 9.8 and just give it a little bit of extra room there. And it will still be positioned at the 1 inch over and 1 inch down. Now, when I send my design, you're going to send it where it is currently located on your mat. And then we're going to go ahead and prepare our mat. So when I work with paper, I like to work with the Siser light grit mat, and that's this red one. So let me stop share here. Okay, so if I can go to, can we spotlight the other camera? The overhead camera. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to take my red mat, and it comes with this protective plastic piece. So you want to take that off and make sure that does not fall on the floor because it's really slippery. But we're going to go ahead and position our material on the mat. And I use my little wedge to make sure I've got everything positioned down properly. Now it will start to cut, your machine will start to cut in this bottom left corner. So that's why I positioned my circle into the middle of my cutting mat. So it would go on I would start it right there, but I want it to cut kind of out of the middle. So I'm just going to load that in. And as I look at it, I want to make sure that the material is going to be right under where the blade is. So this is my blade. My blade's going to be right there. And I just am going to kind of push that back a little bit. And I'll move my blade over just a little bit. So that way, if I were starting in that bottom left-hand corner, that's where it would start. It's just going to cut it on the center of my paper. So I'm going to go ahead and send to my cutter. And I've got my force at 40 and my speed at 10. You know, what's funny is I took my blade out right before, like I was looking at something on my blade and I noticed it didn't cut. I didn't have my blade all the way in. Just fix that real quick. And we will repeat that. Okay. I was working with my felt and I had it pulled out, so I'm going to make sure that cut this time. Yeah, there we go. Nice cut. Now, I do recommend, since your Siser machines don't have like automatic settings on them, I do recommend that you can always do that little test cut in the bottom corner of your material to make sure that it will cut properly. So I'll just peel that off and double check that with my circle. Much better. So now I don't have, that's going to cover up nicely. Okay, so once you have your template, the reason I made the template was so that I would have a visual idea to know about how big my circle is going to cut. So here's the easy part. What we're going to do is just start taking our scraps and build up a sheet that will cut in that circle. So if you want to think about where that circle falls on your mat, you can kind of put this on your mat so you can see where those where your stripes are going to be. You can use the light grip mat or you can switch to the high tack mat. I'm saving my high tack mat for like my felt and stuff like that. I'll just use the light tack should do it okay for us on the vinyl. So I think what I'm going to do is start with my printed material and kind of put that on my mat first. And I just have to cut out stripes of that material and lay that down on my mat. So I'll just cut out, and you just take whatever scraps you have. So if you had a smaller piece, that smaller piece might go at the top. Kind of decide this, since this is my focus vinyl, I'm going to cut it the largest width that I want. So I'll cut that about 1 inch and kind of position that right there. And I'll use the grid lines to position this down so it doesn't go crooked or anything like that. And I'll go like half up, maybe half 1 inch on the next piece to go down here. And then maybe 2 that are 1/4 inch. So just whatever materials you have will kind of help dictate what size you cut. So if you're cutting it in the middle, you want to make sure you have it, at least as wide as your circle. But when we get to the smaller parts, like up here at the top, you don't need to have as much, you don't need to have as wide a piece as you do at the bottom. I'm just going to kind of put that one right there, like that. So that's going to be starting off. I may add or change to that as I go. Then I want to do a thicker strip of a color, and maybe I'll do this nice turquoisey color. And that I'm just gonna put right about there, but that, and I wanna make sure that it butts right up next to the other one. How's everybody doing? Anybody have any questions? This is a good opportunity if you have questions about the Siser machine in general. This is a really great time to kind of ask those questions. I'm happy to answer as we're crafting along and we're building up our little squares here. Let me get some black in this. So I'll just take, see, so this is a shorter piece. I don't need to have it as long. I can do just a smaller piece. Let me just put that right there. So I'll cut a little piece of that. And put that one right in the bottom there. So it's okay that it's a little bit smaller. It's just gonna go right in there like that. And then maybe I want some gray next to it. I think I like this gray better. Gotta get some pink in there too. So whatever colors you're doing, like you maybe are just, using random colors that you have and just kind of playing with what you already have available at your fingertips, or maybe you did some colors already. Like you have a color scheme kind of going like I do here. Whatever's working for you. I'm just going to kind of keep butting those right up next to each other as you're going. Because once, and then we'll do a cut on the circle. And once we have the circle cut, then we'll remove, we'll use transfer tape and pick it up with the transfer tape. So let's put this down here. See, it's coming together. Sometimes you're, if you are using like your vinyl, there may be some white on the side, like your paper, the backing paper, maybe a little bit on the side. So just be aware of that. Like if you're cutting this edge, just have a little bit of white there. So just be aware of that as you're cutting your materials, that you are, making sure you cut that off as you go. I think I need some more blue in this. What do you guys think? Let's do a little darker blue here. I've got white too, also to add in there. I even pull out some brown. That maybe brown might be fun to use. And doing it right on the grid, you can see how much you'll need to fill in the space. So I may decide, I want to pop that down a little bit, make it easier. Fill that space in. Bring this down. That's good down there. Need a little bit more black, I feel like, up top there. And the great thing about this, I think about this project, because we are using up scraps and stuff, nothing goes to waste in your craft room. Kind of always my motto. But it's just a really good use of little pieces that you maybe have hanging out. I don't use it as an excuse to keep more little pieces. So we're just gonna start making sure I've got everything is close to each other. By having the paper behind this, it is allowing me to pick things up as I'm going and making sure that I'm getting things in the right, order, that they're close to each other. You don't want to have gaps in between if you can help it, because then it would show through, your material from behind would show through. There we go. A little scrap of gray here. Now, once I have all my pieces down, almost there. This has that little white edge on it. I'm gonna trim that off. I'm curious if anybody picked up the leopard color that they're using, or are you using a different color, a different pattern maybe, or any pattern at all. Maybe you're not using any pattern. Let's put in our pink here. A little more turquoise. So sometimes when you cut something out and you have a little bit of scrap left over and you don't want to get rid of it, you can make this, and you can do this with any type of shape. So while we're doing it a circle here, you could do it with you know, a letter in the alphabet. Like if you wanted to do somebody's name in this color, this is also a fun way to use some heat transfer vinyl as well. And let's do a dark gray. I think we have a dark gray here. Thicker there. That one, and then this one. Now, the last trick I want to show you, where you have a big space like this one, where maybe you want to put extra colors on top of it. So see here where this blue has like these blues and the whites, you can just take your material. So let's say I take this vinyl piece here, this light gray. I'm just going to remove the back on it. I'm just going to line that up right onto the vinyl that's already down. So I'm just going to add that extra stripe in there, and then maybe add some darker turquoise here. So you're going to add as many colors on it as you want, and you can even do, you know, 4 or 5 thick stripes to get the initial colors. And then once you've put it on your wood, if you're like, oh, you know, I think I'd like to have more white in there or more black in there, you can always add that on and just kind of keep layering your circle on from that direction. So I've got that on there. I can add more colors if I want, but I think I'm just going to leave it like it is right here. Now, the fun part of this is once we cut it all, to take off the backing pieces of it. Because we have to strip off each of the backing pieces. But once you've got that laid down, then we're going to carefully remove our guide there. Make sure everything's sticking down how you want it to be. That right in the middle there. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about that end because it's going to cut that off. Kind of good right here. It seems to be sticking up. So if anything is sticking up, just kind of come back, grab it, and make sure you've got it placed down. If you need to, you can kind of move it around a little bit if you need to. All right, so here we go. There. Okay, so once you've got all your pieces on your mat and you're ready to put it back in your machine, go ahead and open your machine up. You're going to load this in. I'm going to make sure everything stays on there. So let's get it loaded in. And I'm going to position the start of it at the same spot I had it before. Oops. Okay, so once you've got it positioned back in there, we're just going to go ahead and send it to the cutter again. And there we go. Now it'll just cut out a circle out of all your pieces. I picked up one of my pieces. So this little guy didn't get trimmed, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. Then we just go around the outside and remove the pieces, the outside pieces of it that cut. And I'm just going to remove these off of here. Probably should have changed my pressure a little bit since I was not cutting paper. Got to do that. So if something doesn't, it cut through on the vinyl, it just didn't cut through on the backing paper, and I forgot to change my settings so I could cut on the vinyl. So just always remember when you change your material, check your settings so you're cutting the right depth. And had I done my test cut, I would have gotten it. I would have known, oops, I forgot to change my settings. So once you've done everything, you've got it all cut out. All cut around, you've removed the excess pieces around the side here. We've got a nice circle going on. If you have any pieces that, maybe didn't cut all the way through or didn't cut the right shape, this is where you can either recut those if you needed to, or we'll just fudge with those like that. My gray piece here, I'll add that back on at the very end and we'll get that cut. And where it didn't cut through, I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and just, I don't know why it's not coming off, but I think that's where it got caught after the gray. All right. So once you've done that, now we just need to take our transfer tape, and your transfer tape is your clear transfer tape. And you just peel that off from the backing. It doesn't matter which one you're using. You do want to make sure that you're not using like a strong grip transfer tape, because the strong grip transfer tape will make it hard to bring up this vinyl. If you were using, say, a glitter vinyl, then you would want to use the strong grip transfer tape. But just for regular everyday vinyl, standard grip transfer tape will work. Now this is where it's a little tricky because you're adding stick to stick as far as putting it on the mat. But we're gonna make sure that you have air bubbles in there that lays down flat. Okay, so there we go. Got that on there, nice and flat. Now we're just going to turn the mat over and remove the transfer paper as well as your vinyl pieces. And you're just going to roll your mat away from your vinyl. So see how I'm rolling that back? And that's giving me a nice completion here. And you can see I have a whole bunch of different vinyls that I've used. Like if you look at the backs of these, I've got a whole bunch of different vinyls that I used. And now all we have to do is with the vinyl, come on in and start peeling off your back. I'm going to slide these out of our way. Needs to work with. Okay. Here we go. So now we're just going to take these off on the back. And just peel all these off. Now, if you use, say, Cricut Smart Vinyl, their paper backing on the Smart Vinyl is a little bit harder to get off than other like easy weed types of vinyl. Like the Siser backing, the Oracle backing comes off really nicely. Sometimes you have to just work a little bit with that Cricut one, but if you use, I'm sorry, guys, I'm like peeling and talking at the same time. It's kind of hard. But since our shapes are bigger shapes, I wasn't too worried about getting our vinyl off properly. I thought it would be easy to peel off with these big shapes. No little parts to worry about here. All right, so how's everybody doing? Did you get yours cut out already? I just want to make sure that I'm peeling off the backing and not removing the actual, you want your vinyl to stick down. So you want to make sure you're peeling just the backing piece off your vinyl. You want it to stick down. And then what we're going to do now that you've got it set, it's all set there. We'll just turn it over. And I notice I have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm going to fix that before I put it on my board. Am I going to be able to do that? So maybe I'll just hold that. I'm going to hold that piece off so that I can fix that. Okay, so let's grab our board. Now my board happens to have 2 holes in it, which doesn't really matter because I'm going to put like little hooks in the back of it to hang it. But you want to, if you do have some backing like hooks or anything like that, you want to be aware of that and kind of put those at the top versus the side. And then we're just going to slide this on. Before you press it down, you want to give it an eyeball look and make sure it's all lined up properly. And then you go ahead and put it down and we'll flip it over. And then we're just going to use your wedge and make sure that your vinyl is down. And then we're just going to peel this right off the back. Okay, so once it's down, you just begin to peel from a corner and you remove it, and then you can just, give everything a nice little press as you're going. So this really saves you from having to do a lot of cutting and worrying about getting those edge pieces cut properly or anything like that, just to do it in that shape. And then I've got my last little piece here. I'm going to add a little bit of space on my circle just to see where it feels. I think I got a little bit loose on the top, but that's okay. So we're just going to put this right on here. Put that back there. All right. So that is how we are cutting stripes, our stripes in vinyl. If you want to, you can come back with additional colors and put additional colors down. If you didn't want to cut it out of your machine, if you didn't want to cut the circle out of your machine, you could just lay your stripes right onto your board and then always come back and trim the edge off. So this little guy that didn't get cut, I'm going to put him on right here. And then I'll just cut that with scissors on the edge. So what didn't get cut, I'll just cut it with scissors. I like doing the circle in my in the machine because it just makes it easy. It makes it easier to me. So there we go. There is our the first layer of our project. All right, if there were any questions, please let me know, and I can answer those questions as it gets set up. And I just clean out my scraps here for the second part of the project, which is cutting your name. Okay, so I have on mine, my first one, I sort of went with like the Serape design and that it's Cinco de Mayo, kind of May, and did Casa de Anderson. If you wanted to, if you did like these kind of shapes, maybe you want to say like welcome to the pool or just welcome on the front of it. So let's talk about how to set up your letters in the Design Studio. So let me share my screen again here. Okay, share my screen and we'll just go right into Design Studio here. All right. So we'll go back to the designing page and we will add some text to our page. So let me come back here to our circle. I can just add text. So there are so many, you get all the fonts that are in your computer to work with. So it's fine. My daughter always kills me because I like to use a font called Lobster, which I've downloaded from a different, from I think the font is where I got it. So if I want to use Lobster and then I want to change that font to Lobster, I just scroll down to Lobster, and you can use anything you want. I like Lobster because it kerns. So kerning means like the letters are designed so that they will be, do I have Lobster? I may not have Lobster on this computer. Oh, I don't. The letters are such that each letter kind of comes together. So instead of having like it's a cursive, but each letter isn't apart. It's designed together. I don't know if that makes sense or not. And let's say I want to make these like 1.5 inches. So I'll go up, increase my font to about 1.5 inches. And let's apply that. Oh, I should change my color. So let me change my fill color here. Change that to, just so I can see it, we'll change it to white. There we go. So now I can just take my words and come apart like this. So maybe that's how it's going to go on my design. So you just have to add your letters in there. If I wanted to add, say, a stroke around this, let's change this to white. Change that to white. Apply that, and where my words are, where'd they go? Come back. There. I'll change that to like a blue color. And then if I wanted to add an offset to it and sort of do the an outline contour, I could add that offset to the back of the letters. And so we just add that a little bit bigger, say like that. And I can remove the holes. So now I would have 2 layers of fonts for my sign. I'm going to just do 1 layer, so I'm not going to do that second layer, but I thought you guys might like to see how to do that. So once I've got it ready to go, I'm going to send the design, and this time I'm not going to use the current position because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to move each color layer to the origin, and you'll see where that positions it. So see how that positions it down at that bottom left corner? And I'm just going to move it up and give myself a little bit of space. Now I could cut this out of vinyl if I wanted to, or I could cut it out of the felt. So I think I'm going to keep that on this page and cut that out of felt. Now, the other thing we need to do for our sign, I'm going to move, I think I'll move that over to the side. The other thing we need to do to our sign is add a rolled flower. So this is a design that I got from a website called Creative Fabrica. When you buy your machine, you do get 1 year use of Creative Fabrica. So let me just show you on the Creative Fabrica, I did a search for rolled flower, and all of these, all these rolled flowers appear, like they just show up, and you can choose which one you want to work with. You would click on it, and then you would just say download that design. If you don't have a Creative Fabrica account, you can just purchase designs individually. You can go to Etsy or anything like that and add them on there. Now, when you're ready to load that into your design studio, you would just go to your page and you would say File. We're going to open a file, and you'd navigate to that file on your desktop. and add that file to your canvas. So the rolled flower number 9, I'm going to add that to my canvas as a cut only file. And it's only one color, so I'm good to go. Now, I do know about 6 inches is about the size I'm looking for. So I'm going to change the width of my design, and my proportions are locked. So I've got my width right there, and I'm just going to change that. And then I have this. So I can cut these both out on the same mat if I wanted to, by making them both the same color. See if I can, not sure if I can change that color super easily. See if that changes it to the same. Let's make them both Dodger blue. That way we know they'll cut on the same mat. Dodger blue. Okay, so now that I have those both the same color, they should, when I send it to my design, I'm going to do all artwork that fits on the page. I'm not going to separate by color, and I'm going to keep relative positions to each layer. So that's going to kind of hold those positions there. Now I'm ready to, oops. Oh, they're not the same color. Sorry. This is, I want to change that to Dodger blue, apply, and let's make this Dodger blue. That's the darker blue. There we go, Dodger blue, and apply. Now when I send it over, it should hold those together and cut those together right there. All right, so now I'm ready to send that over, but the material I'm going to cut is felt. And sometimes I forgot to write down my cut settings. So I usually sometimes will have to go and just do, I'll just do a quick search and find the guide, the cut guide, so I know what size, what I need to change any speed or force to my blade to cut the felt on the Siser Juliet. So let me just double check my cuttings there. Juliet felt settings. And I'm going to the reason I had my blade out was because I was adjusting the blade. So I just go on their website and I find their cut settings. Let me just find this one. What did I do? I guess I'll just use, maybe I'll just use the strip flock, which is a force of 20 to 25 and a speed of 10. Okay, so I think I've got enough speed here to work with and enough force. It might be a little bit too much, but let's do, I can do a test cut. So let me grab my black mat. I always forget sometimes about the test cuts. And I think I'm going to do white letters on here. So let me stop share and I'll show you guys how we do that test cut. Okay, so I've got my, this time I'm going to use this high tack mat, and I'll put my material on the mat, and I'll use my wedge to make sure that it's going to stay down. Now, when you look at your blade, this is one thing I think that sets the Siser machine apart, is the blade, you can use this dial to adjust the depth of the blade. So if you happen to be working with a material that is super thick, to get that blade to cut down, you can just change the dial here, this gold dial, and bring your blade up or down. I think it's a gold dial that does it. But basically what you want to do is make sure if you hold your material up to the blade, that the blade will go through. So I'm going to bring my dial down just a little bit and go into my material a little bit further down than it was. So that's a little bit too far. Let me back that off a bit. That's good. So when I run my finger along, the blade is right along the edge of the material. So I've got the blade flat. And it's right along the edge of the material. And I run my finger up and I can feel that blade is right there. So I'm happy with that. I'll tighten it back up. Put it back in my machine. Make sure it's in all the way this time. Not like last time. Okay, so that's in there, and then I just gonna tighten that up in there. So on different machines, they put different pressure weights and things like that. You don't have that flexibility to be able to push your blade and change that setting on your blade manually. So I really like that on this. Okay, so we're gonna load it in. And then on your machine, you have a test cut button right there. So I'm just gonna click the test cut. And it cuts out the cutest little t-shirt. And I'm just gonna unload my machine just a little bit and make sure that that cut all the way through, and it's a nice cut, and that's beautiful. So that's my t-shirt right there, it cut through. That tells me my cut settings are good and I am ready to go. So now that I've cut that there and I have my design is, this might be too small a piece. My design is, I'm gonna change out my material because I think that's too small a piece, so we'll go with the black. Yeah. All right. So I'll load that back in. I know it's gonna cut. We don't need to do a test cut. And I'll get the blade, the paper right to the origin point of the blade. Okay, and then I'm ready to go. So I just send a cutter and off we go. Okay, now while it's cutting, again, if you have any questions, this is definitely a good opportunity to ask those questions. If you had any, you're curious about, the Siser machine. If you're curious about the machine, oh no, it's tearing it up. I may have gone too deep on my blade. Oh, all right, my sign got a little torn up there. So we will go ahead. I will recut that to make sure I get that going. But just in case we run out of time, I'm going to start heating up my heat gun so we can make our flour. And I'm curious if I put too much pressure or not enough pressure. Too much force or not enough. Pull it out because you can see it cut it, but it kind of dragged through it. So I may not have done enough, but my flour looks pretty good. So, I have to say, I think that when you work with your machine, you have to give yourself the grace to make a mistake. And that's how you learn. And it works on one thing, like this cut beautifully, but that welcome was a little bit difficult to cut through. Maybe my font was too small, my words were too small, but this flower cut through beautifully. So I have to decide, do I need to maybe change my font or try my blade a little bit less deep or more force? And my material also could have wiggled on me. So it could be a lot of different things that cause those issues. Now, for your flower, you're going to start on the outside edge here and roll your way into the inside of the flower. So this is going to be where it's going to end up. Since this is felt, it's a nice thick material, I'm just going to do it by hand. But if you were doing like paper or something like that, you may want to use a quilling tool or use your tweezers just to hold it in place. But with the fabric and such, I'm just going to roll it with my hand. I'm not going to use any additional tools to do that. And I'm just going to keep, I'm not worried about it being too tight either. So we'll just keep that kind of together. And you just roll that in. So see how I'm rolling it towards the center? Just going to keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Once you get it pretty evenly rolled, then you can sort of decide if you want to open it up a little bit and let it come out. If you are working, sorry, I let it go. If you're working with paper, sometimes people will pull out the edge here, these edges, so that it sort of opens up the flower. I usually wait a bit until the end, towards the end of the flower to do that, and I like to have my centers kind of tight, but that's the cool thing. Everybody will do their flowers in a different way. Oops. And paper flowers, like this pattern, these different patterns, you can cut these out of paper, out of felt, out of fabric, really anything, and just roll them up. If the bigger your template goes, like I made this about 6.5 inches, so it'll be a relatively small flower. But if you want to make bigger flowers, you can do that, and just make like your shape could have been 12 inches wide, and you could have done that. See how this is nice and tight. Really pretty. I don't know if you can tell with the black, isn't a great color. But I kind of am now on the outside edge, I'm bringing my petals a bit down as I go around. And I'm letting them come out a little bit looser. Like this. So once you get to that last little step there on the back, that little flap, that's where you grab your hot glue gun and you put a nice little glob of hot glue and you just put that right on your flower. So there's your flower. It's hard to see because it's black. But there we go. And then I can just start adding those. I'll add those onto my sign here. Make this the top of my sign. So I can just use my hot glue gun and add those on, and I'll make about 3 or 4 more flowers to go across the top. Let me see how we're doing on time. If we have time to, okay, I have time. Would you guys, if you want to let me know in the Q&A, would you like me to recut the welcome, or do you want to see a different flower, maybe in a lighter color? Rashmi, you get to choose. What do you think? Another flower in a lighter color?
Yeah, sure.
That's what I think. I know that black I didn't think about it being hard, maybe hard to see on the camera. So I will do how about I do a turquoise flower? And I'm going to go back to my design and I'll just move that welcome off for right now. And we'll put that flower right on there. And how about I make this one a bit bigger this time? Okay, so you'll get to see the difference between the two different, a smaller flower and a bigger flower. I'll load in my paper, my mat. I'll get it to the origin point. And it's good to get to learn that origin point, saying that to yourself. I'll get it to the origin point and then I'll cut it. Okay. So a couple things. I did use my Siser weeding tool. So this is a great little tool to have on hand. You want to make sure you have like a wedge, and this holds your material down on your cutting mat. So you always want to have your wedge handy. We use all different kinds of vinyl and our sign. And one other thing, I'll show you it after this cuts, because I get this a really common question. How do you keep your mat clean? So I keep a little packet of baby wipes handy, and these are dry. I haven't used them in a while. But I'll keep these handy, and you just want to wipe down your mat and remove any of that felt. Like this is a very linty project. So when I take my material off of my mat, you'll notice there will be like little bits of color on your mat. And then you just want to take those off and clean your mat after you're done. How pretty that cuts. I always want to make with the felt. I always want to make like little felt people, a little felt playboard for my nieces and nephews. They would love that. All right, so a little piece right here. So now I've got a bigger piece. I think you'll get to see how this flower comes together a little bit better. And see all the black on my mat? If my wipes were wet, you could just wipe that down and clean that right off and let it dry for a minute and then put it right back on your mat. Okay, so this is a big one. I made this is like about an 8-inch flower to start with. So I'll just start with this end here and we'll begin and curl. So you're gonna want to bring it in on itself and just start to curl. If you want to add some beads in the center, you can do that. If you want it, you can really customize it however you want to do it. Add beads in there, you put a little, what else do you put in the center of your flower? I don't know why beads seem to be the right thing. See how it's coming together? It's starting to wrap around. Let me bring in my center a little bit tighter. So. So you can either go looser or tighter, whatever works. Because it's so big, I can put my finger right down in there. That's coming together. And then I'm back at that circle spot, so I'll go right on the circle. I'd like it to be a little bit looser on the outside and tighter on the inside. So I'm going to reach in there and grab my starting point and make that just a little bit tighter on the inside there. So that will hold that. Oh, that's pretty. I'll hold that together. And then on the outside part, I'm going to let that go a little bit more open. So I'm going to loosen the outside part up a little bit. Again, if you are working with paper, you have a little bit more, flexibility to spread your paper out and curl it to make it kind of give you a different look and spread those petals out. With the felt, you don't have so much of that ability. You might be able to heat it up because felt does, felt might take some heat, like take a flat iron and just maybe push those out. But you can see, you can really kind of manipulate this and get the look that you want. If you have something, you want to get it in a specific spot, just add a little bit more of a glue gun in there. So if I know like this is a little bit loose and I want it to be on that disc, I'm going to push that in and close that up a little bit. So put a little more out there and then close that like that. All right. So this might be a little bit big for my sign. I'm not sure, maybe not. Maybe that look cute with some smaller flowers around it. Always push that down like a petal and bring those in. Actually, that kind of looks neat. All right. And then I need to just add my welcome, recut that, and there we go. That's my whole, your sign is ready to go. And I apologize that my letter choice maybe wasn't the best letter choice to get that to cut properly. But the felt is a super fun thing to cut and you can really get creative with it. I love to add the stripes onto the designs because it's a neat way to take your vinyl to the next level by adding the stripes and then your flowers and a couple leaves and things like that. So I hope those techniques will inspire you to create something and make a door sign or, anything like that, like a little flag or something for your garden, something fun. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you all have a great day, great evening.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Thanks.